The Counter-Reformation and Ecumenism. Did you know that when Martin Luther put up his 95 Theses and the Reformation started to take place, that the church was already thinking about and trying to reform itself? But this spurred on a great reformation within the Catholic Church. That is, the Protestant Reformation sought to reform the errors and the corruption, right? But unfortunately, it turned into a separation, a schism, right? And then a change and an effort to change actual truth and teaching and doctrine, right? That's where the error came in. Well, the Catholic Church said, let's take on the reforms, let's take on these criticisms of corruption, and let's address them. And so the Catholic Church actually had its own reformation called the Counter-Reformation. And in this, it was not only correcting the corruption, but it was a religious vigor, it was a passion, it was a desire to go back to, right, that flame and the fire of Catholicism, of holiness. So the Reformation inspired what it should have. Unfortunately, right, what it became was a move towards personal authority rather than staying as one, right? So what did the church do, though? The church throughout Europe includes a new clarification of doctrine. So the church convened a great ecumenical council. There hadn't been one in quite a while. So the Council of Trent forms, and the Council of Trent forms, and it's there for a couple years, right? And what happens in the Council of Trent? They clarify almost everything there is, addressing issues that the Protestant Reformation brought up, and making sure that it clarified Catholic Church teaching, most especially the issues that the Reformation was trying to split on with regards to teaching, and not just corruption issues, which was authority, which was sacraments and grace, right? So Trent clarified and said, here's what's always been taught the past 1,500 years, right? And make sure we have this down. So we can reform the corruption edge parts, but we're not trying to change the truth, right? The positive faith, which is very important, right? So this counter-reformation of the church, Trent was the big driving force when it comes to doctrine, but also new religious orders formed up. The Jesuits came out of this. Carmelites came out of this. So the Jesuits had the intention, right, to have a passion as soldiers to spread the truth of Christ and to bring people back to the Catholic Church where they had been being led off and apart and away from the unity, right? So that was where Ignatius of Loyola comes in, and Francis Xavier, and some of those great Jesuits in the Jesuit order, right, of seeking to bring back and to unify the truth of the church. You also have a reformation when it comes to a revitalized understanding of Catholic art, music, architecture, education, right? Worldwide evangelization. So this is boom comes out of the Catholic Reformation to drive home holiness, right, and get rid of corruption, but to stick with the truth of the authority and the teaching of the church for the past 1,500 years. The great saints of Catholic Reformation, there's a lot, but the big ones, Ignatius of Loyola, Francis Xavier, John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila, Francis de Sales, and many others assist the church on earth, right, and driving it towards holiness and an understanding of truth. Now, what comes out of this, when the split happens in the Reformation, you have deep wounds and disunity, right? Branches of a tree off of a trunk. How in the world do you get it to go back, right? That's a big task, and the task is called ecumenism. Ecumenism is the task of working towards unity, back to what God wanted. Unity in liturgy, unity in creed, unity in authority and structure, right? Which all Christians are called to engage. If one is Christian, really believes it, a follower of Christ, well, we must take Christ's words seriously, that he wants us to be one in faith, one in creed, one in worship, one in him, right? If we don't believe that or we don't seek that, we're hypocrites when it comes to followers of Christ, right? We're saying, I'll follow you, Christ, but I want division. How in the world does that happen? How can you have division in Christ's body, right? Catholics engage in ecumenical work because only the Catholic Church is, according to the Catholic Church, right, what the Catholics believe and teach is that Christ started the Catholic Church, as we've said in these past chapters. So for up to 1500s, right, there's the one church, the Catholic Church, which has the fullness of the means of salvation, right? It has grace through the sacraments that Christ gave. It has the authority to give that grace, which Christ gave, right? So all the members of the people of God should be incorporated into her, right? Should receive grace through the sacraments, should receive grace through the authority of the church, right? That's what the church wants to promote, and seek out all other people and try to let them know that, right? Grace is there, right? The water fountains of holiness and spirituality are found within this Catholic Church, right? And so the church is called to do this. Vatican II comes up with 4 great principles for ecumenical work. First, all called to conversion of heart, right? Not just non-Catholic, but Catholics as well should, knowing that corruption exists, right, should always seek ourselves, right, to seek truth and to seek God. Virtue, holiness, essential for fostering Christian unity. Myself first, right? Deal with my own, not just others. And in dealing with myself, now I can help others, right? Encouraging deep understanding between Catholics and separated brethren theology and personal knowledge. If we just butt heads and have debates and say, I'm right and you're wrong, and then somebody else, the non-Catholic, saying, I'm right and you're wrong, if we just butt heads, right, we're lost. We're never going to get it to work, right? So what's the main task? Well, for ecumenism, what we need to do, right, is the Catholic to sit down with the non-Catholic and say, what do you believe in, right? What's your truth? What do you get? Where does it come from, right? Understanding the non-Catholic tradition and understandings. And so doing that, and the non-Catholic understanding Catholicism, right? And from that coming together and say, let's seek truth, right? Let's go back to Christ. Let's seek the roots of all things. Ecumenism, another point, Catholic faith must be presented in its entirety and accurately. One of the big issues and one of the big problems people think ecumenism is compromise, is watering down Catholicism, watering down the faith, and say, well, we'll budge here, we'll do this if you do this, right? Let's come together in a middle ground, right? We'll give up this sacrament or that sacrament, and you give up this and that. And in the middle, we'll find ourselves united together. That's baloney, right? That's trash. That's like saying, well, I'll reject Christ so that I can be united with this other person, which was what Christ wants. No, right? And so lastly, in ecumenism, prayer, right? Praying for unity. So that's ecumenism and the Counter-Reformation.